morning, everybody. My name is Thomas Gaehtgens, and I'm the director of the Getty Research Institute, and I would like to welcome you all very warmly to this exciting day. I am perhaps a little bit too enthusiastic, but I think this day is a memorable day already, and it will change art history. It's not so bad. And we cannot say that daily, but I think what we accomplished all together is really important, outstanding, and will have many consequences, and we'll talk about that. But let me first welcome, first of all, you all and those who come from far away, from Paris, from Munich, from European countries, from New York, from all over this country. And let me especially welcome our president, Jim Cuno, who always has supported the GRI in our ambitions to further scholarship and research. And he will address to this audience at this special occasion. So please welcome Jim Cuno.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, very much, and thank you all for coming, and thank you all for all the many contributions you have made to the Getty Research Portal on this historic day. We went live yesterday, as you well know, and it's already been received very, very well. I'm told from Thomas that today in the FAZ in Frankfurt, there is as described by Thomas, a hymn to the project. So, not just an editorial comment, but a full hymn to the project. So it's already being met with enthusiastic response, and we intend for that response and that enthusiasm to only grow as things progress. That is, as people use it more and more, and as more and more is available through it. Now, at the core of what we do at the Getty is research, as Thomas indicated, and it's the research that we do here, and it's the research that we support around the world. Research focused on the history of art and the conservation of art, and arts in that sense to mean also architecture and historic monuments. And so nothing we can do can detract us from our basic commitment to research and to the fruits of that research and the dissemination of that research across multiple platforms. And in this case, of course, it is fully digitized copies of art historical texts up to, in this country, the 1923, I think it is, right? Because of the law that would otherwise prohibit us from putting it online. And there's our lawyer raising her finger at me, Maureen, that's it, all right. 1923, the copyright law, she's got us tied to a short leash. But it is a free online search gateway that aggregates descriptive metadata of digitized art history texts and with links to fully digitized copies that are free to download. So that's the key. The key is not just that stuff is there, but the metadata is there so you can find the stuff that's there and you can download it free of charge. To date, the libraries listed here, international group of libraries, have contributed nearly 20,000 digitized art history texts. That's a lot, but it's not enough for Thomas Gaehtgens. So, so there will be more on a regular basis uploaded onto the site and available through the portal. And increasingly, we hope its success will be measured not just by how much is there, but by how many people use it, scholars of all ages and all stages in their professional life, and from all countries in the world that engage with the history of art. When Thomas said it's going to change art history, we think it's not just going to change the way by which we do the history that we have done, but rather how we do history differently, because we will do so by having access to materials we have never had access to, and to be in contact with art historians around the world who are beginning to ask questions they couldn't have thought of asking before because they didn't have access to these kind of materials, nor did they have the context that the web is providing them, the means to make those contacts the web is providing. So we'll have scholars on all continents asking questions about the history of art they couldn't have asked before, and in that simple way, it will fundamentally change the course of art history. So I just want to say welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. Again, thank you for the contributions you've already made. It's going to be a glorious day as we look at the potential of the portal and current constraints on the portal, because after all, we only went live yesterday, and it's important to recognize the constraints so that we can address those constraints and make the portal all the richer. So thanks again, and now Thomas Gaehtgens again.
Thank you, Jim. Well, first of all, I have to make a little bit of housekeeping. Would you be so kind to turn your cell phones off? You will not have coverage anyway, but it is still important because of all kinds of technological material which is around here. I also would like to announce that after our discussions this afternoon, there will be a reception at the end. So don't run away. There will be something to eat and to drink. In 1771, the French writer and critical intellectual Louis Sebastian Mercier published a utopian vision. After falling asleep, he awoke in the year 2440, in a distant future, more than 400 years from now. So he had a long sleep. Wandering around in this astonishing new environment, he also visited the Library of the King. He was unable to imagine a democratic society without a king, although he was a fervent critic of absolutism in his time. One would expect Mercier's vision of the library, you see him here in a portrait, and this is the first edition of this very famous book. One would expect Mercier's vision of the library in 2440 to look like the one imagined by Étienne Louis Boullé in a famous drawing conserved in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris. This work renders a lofty building containing endless rows filled with the whole world's production of books, alluding to the famous Library of Alexandria in antiquity. However, Mercier described the library in 2440 as a very small room. Un petit cabinet où étaient plusieurs livres qui me parurent rien moins que volumineux. So here's the translation, a small cabinet with numerous books that seemed to me nothing less than extensive. The explanation he received by the librarian is surprising. Over the centuries, it has been decided to censor the books and burn most of them. Why? Because, and Mercier addresses this argument, especially to his time, à la honte de la raison, on écrivit, puis on pensait. Turning Descartes' famous phrase around, je pense donc je suis, I think, therefore I am, he says, to the shame of reason, one wrote before thinking. Mercier predicts that in 2440, only those books that are useful for the future of human knowledge will survive. All those consisting of continuous repetition only take up space and will have been eliminated, especially novels. Both visions, Mercier's and Boulé's, at the end of the 18th century, the century of enlightenment, could not foresee the industrial revolution of the 19th century and the technological revolution of the present. Nor could they imagine the challenges that confront us in the digital age, in which we have to build the digital humanities anew. Mercier's vision is based on the assumption of an ideal. Everything that is not needed to attain this goal can fall into oblivion. Art history, however, as all the disciplines of the humanities, has permanently to consider and reconsider what has been thought and written in the past, because it is the basis of our understanding of earlier times and of our own judgment. We require the entire literature of former periods to explain works of art and their reception. Mercier's vision would deprive us of our main sources for understanding and interpreting the cultural and artistic production of the past. Contrary to the natural sciences, we cannot miss anything which has been published, since the history of understanding and interpretation of works of art has become an important and relevant, if not central, goal of our research ambition. And this is not only a condition of art history in the Western tradition, but in all cultures. The Getty Research Portal responds to this situation. It is right now just the first step in a project that has the potential to embrace, in the future, the entire literature of art history in all cultures and all languages in the public domain, which remains in the US before 1923. It will make this huge digital library accessible for readers and scholars wherever they are. And in contrast to other databases, access to the Getty Research Portal will be free. This global perspective meets the goal of the Getty's philanthropic philosophy and the Research Institute's mission to enhance scholarship and understanding of works of art across the world. The Getty Research Portal will be extremely useful in Western countries, and even though the publications are available in many public libraries, it will, however, be even more beneficial, if not a turning point, in countries where art history has only recently been established and where art history libraries have not been or cannot be fully established. By improving the accessibility of resources, this fundamental tool will advance our understanding of art and further the engagement to protect the cultural heritage in our global society. The Getty Research Portal is a tool that facilitates our daily scholarly work. We suddenly have an ideal art history library at our fingertips, wherever we are, although, of course, only of earlier periods. But there will be challenges. First, what is an art historical source? What should be digitized and enter the portal? Already Julius von Schlosser, in his famous volume Die Kunstliteratur, published in 1924 and then in an Italian version a little later, which still is a fundamental bibliography of the published sources of our discipline, had difficulties defining what he should include in his volume. Today, almost 100 years later, art history has changed and further developed its methodologies and goals. To give one example, a report of a traveler who visited pre-Columbian sites in Mexico in the 18th century cannot be considered an art historical analysis, but the book might be a valuable and rare source for further investigation and interpretation, and should therefore be included in the Getty Research Portal. Second, what will be the methodological consequences of the Getty Research Portal for our discipline? In which way will we organize our research material differently? And above all, will the accessibility of this enormous material, although for the time being only in the public domain, influence our way of thinking and writing? And finally, what role will the printed book and libraries play in the future? We have no answer to these questions yet, but there cannot be any doubt that the Getty Research Portal is going to change our daily life as researchers. The digital technology is already deeply implemented in our scholarly life. The Getty Research Portal is, however, a new tool which will, on the one hand, facilitate the processes of our work, as on the other, have a huge potential to open new fields of research. Never before, scholars have been able to consult this amount of material. But we probably all will experience the limits of our capacity to respond to this overwhelming potential of resources. We will be confronted not only with many technological questions still to be resolved, but also challenges which will change the outline of our discipline. I presume that we will begin to address some of these topics today. The Getty Research Portal is the result of a collaborative effort. The major players who helped make this initiative a success are currently gathered in this room and will give presentations or participate in discussions. It all started a few years ago when we were trying to envision the future of bibliography in our discipline. I remember gratefully that when I traveled in the US and in Europe to convince our colleagues to join forces in our digitizing efforts, I was welcomed with open arms. I would especially like to welcome and thank our colleagues from the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art in Paris, the Frick Library, the University Library Heidelberg, the Metropolitan Museum, the University of Malaga, and the Avery Library. We are already in conversation with more institutions in China, in Japan, and Latin America that are interested in participating. I would like to thank you all individually, but the list is too long. So let me name some colleagues who were instrumental in realizing this project. First, I thank Max Marmo, the president of the Crest Foundation, who unhappily couldn't come and participate today, for his persistent conceptual participation and the support of his foundation. My deep thanks also go to the representatives of our founding contributors, Carol Ann Fabian, Deborah Kempe, Martine Poulain, Maria Effinger and Claudia Schmidt, as well as Ken Söhner from the Metropolitan, an institution that recently became a contributor. At the GRI, several people deserve special mention. Kathleen, Salomon, Assistant Director of Library Service, for her leadership in the international committee that developed this initiative. Murtha, Baca, Head of Digital Art History, has been extremely active in promoting the portal, as has been David Farneth, Head of Collection Management and Description, and Kim Richter, Research Specialist. They all have kept control of the various challenges of this major enterprise. Finally, nothing would have been achieved without the technical architect and the mastermind of the Getty Research Portal, and that is, of course, Joe Shubitowski, Head of the Library Information Systems, and Blaney McLone, Application Systems Specialist. Why don't you stand up, Joe? Because everybody wants to address to you. I mean, it's really... But Blaney. We praise you, of course, Joe, and also wish you good luck when, because of the success of the Getty Research Portal, it will explode after thousands of visitors click on the portal in the coming months. And now is the moment, the historical moment, to launch the Getty Research Portal. This has been invented, I must say, by Kim, and it's really fabulous. I was sure that you would enjoy that. And, but this is not everything. It now moves on. So, we are online. So we are online. Now I will turn over to Murtha. Murtha Baca, as you all know, is head of Digital Art History Department of the GRI and internationally renowned for developing the vocabularies, the vocabs, as we say. She has taught and published widely, as you know, about this topic. We all know that without metadata, the technological progress in our discipline is almost useless. We therefore all need and admire her. Please join me in welcoming Murtha Baca.
Thank you, Thomas. I have a few more people to thank. There's the expression, it takes a village. In the case of this project, it takes a medium-sized city. And Thomas alluded to the fact of how it has been a significant undertaking to build this portal. Really, the first meeting that we had with our founding contributors, which was funded by Max Marmer of the Crest Foundation, was a little over a year ago here at the GRI. And in a year, we've come this far, so it's amazing. I do want to thank a few more people. Especially, I want to thank Jim Cuno for supporting this, and Thomas Gaehtgens, of course, and Andrew Perchuk, our deputy director, for supporting this kind of work, and actually for creating a Department of Digital Art History three years ago when we reorganized. Thomas is our inspiration and keeps us moving forward, and Andrew is the voice of wisdom that keeps us more or less sane and has helped us a great deal with a lot of the conceptual and intellectual aspects of this project. I also want to thank Catherine Taft of the GRI, who actually organized this whole event and did all the logistics. Catherine, where are you? There she is there. I also want to thank Michelle Fahmy from Getty Trust Events, Amy Hood from Getty Communications, who has done a fabulous job with the publicity and the press events. We had a couple of virtual interviews with journalists in Europe the other day, and we talked to Culture Monster yesterday on the telephone from LA Times. So Amy has just done a fantastic job for us, and it was a pleasure working with her. I also want to thank Maria Velez. Maria, are you here? Maria Velez is the fabulous designer who in Getty Communications, who designed our logo, all the publicity materials, the poster, the bookmarks, and I think we have some of those materials out at the table out there. And we started calling her Santa Maria Martir during this process because you don't know how many meetings we had about that poster. I also want to thank Lauren Edson and John Hicks in the GRI Publications Department, who helped us with the copy. Big thank you to Jack Ludden, I don't know if he's here, who is the manager of the Getty Web Group, who helped us get all of this stuff on the web. Liz McDermott and Lois White of the GRI, who lead the GRI's web usability group. We still have a lot more usability work to do on this site, but they really helped us initially get up something that worked, that users could use. Deborah Cantor in the Information Systems Department, Joe's department. And a special thank you to Johanna Drucker from UCLA, who she has a very grandiloquent title. It's the Breslauer Professor of, now I lost the piece of paper, Johanna. She's the Bernard Martin Breslauer Professor of Bibliography in the Department of Information Studies at UCLA, but I like to refer to her as Queen of Digital Humanities. And she has really helped us so much on this project and in general helping us think about what is digital art history and what are the kind of tools we should be developing that scholars can really use that will transform their research, as Thomas was mentioning. And thank you, and lastly, I actually do want to thank again Joe Shubitowski and Eleni McGlowan, who did, because I'm going to get various tattoos at some point, and one is going to be something about technology not being a magic bullet. It isn't magic. It's a lot of hard work, and it is amazing that they built this portal in such the technical architecture of the portal in such a short amount of time. So now I am going to pass the microphone to Kim Richter, who is a member of our core team, as Thomas mentioned, and she and Joe are going to give an overview of the portal, very brief overview. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. Ooh, glad we have a full house today. I would like to begin this presentation by asking the members of the audience, where do you find and download digital books online? This is an interactive moment, so yell out, where do you find your books online? Google, okay. Amazon, okay, yeah. HathiTrust, very good. That's an A+ there. Anything else? Ah, thank God. I hope that came from someone at the GRI, because that's where our books go. Okay, and you may also go to JSTOR for journals if you have a subscription. In addition, you may have a list of online resources from where you can download a limited number of sources specific to your field. I know I have an extensive list of bookmark websites useful to a pre-Columbianist like me, such as FAMZ, MesoWeb, and Dumbarton Oaks. So when you're looking for a digitized book and hope to find it online, you probably go from website to website to check if it is available anywhere, and you're probably not going to find it, though. Well, if you're an art historian, you're in good luck, because the Getty Research Portal seeks to make the world's art historical literature in the public domain available in one place. A one-stop download, not shop, if you will. The portal aggregates the library records for digitized books provided by our contributing institutions. So imagine a union catalog for art history with links to digitized books presented in the contributors' home environments, that is their websites, where they can be read or downloaded, for the most part. And these are our contributors, as has been mentioned already. We have our founding contributors, the Avery Architectural and Fine Arts Library at Columbia University, the Frick Art Reference Library, the Heidelberg University Library, the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art, and we've also recently added contributions by the Biblioteca de la Universidad de Málaga, the Thomas J. Watson Library at the Met, and as well as contributions from the members of the New York Art Resources Consortium. I would like to stress that the portal is only in its infancy with close to 20,000 records. Our contributors and we at the GRI are continuing to digitize our holdings. In addition, we are seeking further contributions, especially from institutions with holding different from ours, which is specialized in Western art history. A form for potential contributors is available on the portal website. My colleagues and I have presented 3 demos showing how scholars and other users may conduct research with the portal. We will also point out some functionalities along the way. First up is Kathleen, who will demonstrate a basic search with the help of Joe.
We might characterize the portal as having 2 main facets. One, we are populating the portal with the defined world of art history as outlined in classic bibliographies. We have begun with Julius von Schlosser's Die Kunstliteratur, as Thomas mentioned, from 1924, translated into Italian and updated in 1935. Schlosser's survey of the entire corpus of Western writing on art, from antiquity to modern times, includes guidebooks, technical treatises, works of criticism, and early historiography. Key works held in many of the foremost libraries of art history in the world, including those of our founding contributors. Secondly, we are gathering a wide variety of art historical resources not cited in the classic bibliographies, including exhibition catalogs, art auction sales catalogs, and other rare books. that have been digitized according to the strengths of the contributing institutions. In both cases, we are looking outside of the traditional boundaries of Western art history and hope to identify contributing institutions that are digitizing their holdings in non-Western areas, as well as to review existing authoritative bibliographies in these areas. One of the goals of this project is to provide unified access to the early literature of art history by building a trusted destination for finding foundational art history texts. If, as an art historian, I am researching a particular artist, in this example, Raphael, and wish to review and compare various texts and images found in different early editions and translations of Giorgio Vasari's Lives of the Artists, I will be able to turn to the Getty Research Portal. By typing in a simple keyword search, Vasari, I retrieve 26 records. I can immediately identify the contributing libraries by scrolling down to the left side of the screen, where we can see that 5 libraries have already contributed records with links to digitized versions of Vasari-related literature. I see that the GRI has both of Vasari's original editions digitized, the 1550 and 1568 editions, and I may decide to download them for later browsing. I also note the 1791 edition and a variety of publications on the life of a single artist. I click on the University of Heidelberg's Life of Raphael by Vasari next. I am hoping to be able to compare what was written in this German translation and critical edition by Hermann Grimm with what was written about Raphael in the original. Next, I am interested to learn of the French editions from the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art, and so I check off the associated box. I click on Tome 4. In the interest of time, I've done some of the research ahead of this demo. As you can see in this example and in the previous Heidelberg one, when we click on a link in a record, it takes us to the home environment. In this case, the En Asha. I am now able to locate another and different portrait of Raphael. Again, I could browse this book, or I could go directly to a page. Perusing these volumes, translated, edited, and illustrated by Jean Rond and Leclanché in the 19th century, alongside the originals by Vasari in the 16th century, allows me to compare images of the artist and to read the text in the language of my choosing. Finally, I note that there are many more editions of Vasari published between the 16th and 20th centuries that would be of interest, and I plan to check back with the portal in the future when more institutions contribute their holdings. I will now turn it over to Murtha for another demo.
Thanks, Kathleen. As Kathleen mentioned, the portal does not just include only foundational literature and art history, and Thomas Gaehtgens also alluded to this too. The scope of the portal, every single book in the portal isn't an art history book, but it's the kind of a book that could be in a good art library that supports the kinds of research that we do. So in the portal, we will also find, as Kathleen was mentioning, journals, auction catalogs, sales catalogs, and other materials like that. It also includes rare books. And so in the scenario that Joe and I are going to show you now, I'm a user who saw the exhibition in 2008-2009 called Tango with Cows, which was held here at the Getty. And I could have either been a in-person visitor or a virtual visitor because there was an exhibition website for this really great exhibit. So I'm intrigued by that exhibit, and I want to do some research on Russian futurism. We were going to show some stuff on the home page, right?
Yeah. We can do
So this is the portal search page, which Kathleen already showed you. There's also an informational home page here where you can see there's all the information. If you scroll down, you can see the contributing institutions, which we've already talked about, and we really fervently hope that list will grow soon and fast to have many more contributors. There's frequently asked questions, and then this is a really important page 2, it's the guidelines for contributions. So a lot of our work of the core team in the next months and years is going to be getting additional contributors. And as Thomas was mentioning, we really want to include much more non-Western material in other languages. Joe can already handle all of the non-Western scripts and fonts technically in the portal, so we're ready. Okay, so now for our search. I go to the portal and do a simple search on futurism Russia. Those are my 2 keywords. It returns 18 results, and then, as Kathleen showed you, we have these facets on the left, which are fed by the metadata in the underlying library catalog records. So I'm looking under the names facet, and I see the name Natalia Goncharova, who I am interested in. So I'm going to narrow it by the name of that artist. So now my results have gone down to 5, right, Joe? Okay, and I want to look at the 3rd record. Stay there for just 1 second. So initially you see in your results list, you see a brief display. So it's these very brief records so you can see as many records as possible of what you've retrieved. And then when you click, but I notice Goncharova's name does not appear in this brief record display. So then when I click on more, we see a nice, big, beautiful cataloging record created by one of the catalogers at the GRI, as a matter of fact, which tells us a lot about this book, and also we can see that several artists contributed to this book, and we see Goncharova's name. I also see that the translated title, because the display title is the transliterated Russian title, I can see that the translation of it is World Backwards, or Miskonska, which is kind of intriguing. And then if you notice at the top of that blue bar at the top of the record, the functionalities even here, when you're still inside the portal, you can print this record, library record. You can share it, which is what Joe just clicked on. So I can email it to myself or to another colleague. I can post it on Facebook, or Twitter, and then these are all the additional social media venues where you can send this thing to anyone or post it or share it. And I think Irina Kostashe is going to mention some of this about how this type of aspect of this of the portal is something that it makes it very appealing to younger students. We can open the digital copy of the book by, as Kathleen already showed you, by clicking on the title. We're still on World Backwards. And speaking of the Internet Archive, I think Kim already mentioned this, or Kathleen, the GRI, and the Getty in general, because we have a very strong open access and dissemination policy, we push our material to every possible venue we can send it. So we have been already posting our digitized books to the Internet Archive for a few years now, right? 2 or 3 years? So this is the full digitized copy of this book, which I can now, and I think, Kim, you're going to show some of the functionalities in the Internet Archive, is that right? The different formats. Okay, so now, anyway, at this point, I can now push a button. We're not going to do it on this one. We'll do it on the next one. And download this book, and it becomes part of my personal library. It now exists on my laptop or my Kindle or my iPad. I want to do one more search. Oh, actually, yeah. Is Nancy Perloff here? I thought I saw you, Nancy. Nancy Perloff, who is one of our GRI collections curators and was the curator of this exhibit of Russian avant-garde books, Tango with Cows, told me that 220 copies were made of this book, World Backwards, but each copy is different. So it really is important, and that's also true of almost all of the rare books. They're multiple institutions may have copies of these things, but we want to make them all available because they can be different, they can have different marginalia or inscriptions on them. So we don't, it was interesting because one of the journalists we talked to the other day via this web interview was saying, well, if there's more than one institution that has a book, how do you decide which book you choose? Well, we don't, we make them all available. So again, it's this idea of you're actually visiting all these libraries virtually. The Museum of Modern Art has many of these Russian futurist books, and they're available online, but it only makes the covers and individual pages available. You cannot download the full book. So again, one of the criteria, we keep mentioning this, for contribution to the portal is the books have to be freely available, no password, no subscription, and they should be downloadable. So I'm going to do one more quick search because I love that title, Tango with Cows. So I just do a simple keyword search on tango, and so I get back one book. I get the Tango with Cows book. Again, if I click on more and I see this beautiful cataloging record, I can find out a lot about this item. And Jim Cuno was mentioning this too, that it's not just the fact that we're providing the links to the copies, but we're providing the metadata as well. So this is a really, we have great catalogers in the GRI that this tells us a lot about this book, including the fact that it was printed on the paste side of wallpaper. And I think we're going to go look at it now and just browse through and show a few pages. So this is this book. We also find out from the catalog record that this thing was called, was it Pharaoh poetry, Nancy? Iron poetry. This is just a fascinating group of materials, but it's also a very beautiful book. The key criterion for contribution is that the links from the catalog records within the portal must lead to full digital copies of the works with no restrictions to access, such as a password or that you have to have the IP address of the internet address of the particular institution that owns that copy. So through the portal, users who would never be able to travel to Los Angeles or Heidelberg or Paris or New York or Malaga can consult these works and now own them by making their own digital copies of them. So that's my example, and now Kim Richter is going to show our final example.
Okay, I will be demonstrating the advanced search. I'm preparing a PowerPoint on the conquest of Mexico, and I'm looking for a map of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, and this was published in 1524 for the first time in the first Latin edition of Hernán Cortés's letters. Cortés addressed his letters to Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, and the King of Spain. And in his second letter, he recounts the march into Tenochtitlan. Because I already have a concrete idea for what I'm searching, I click on Advanced Search and enter Cortés under Author and 1524 under Keyword. And poof, there's my book. It's magic. No, it's not. I click on More to expand the library record just to make sure that this book, this is the book I have in mind since it has such a long Latin title. And confirm that these are Cortés's cartas, which I see in the variant titles. There we go. Then I click on the link, which takes me to the Internet Archive, which provides access to almost all of the GRI's digitized books. We especially like the Internet Archive because one can download the books in different formats, if Joe could show that. That is, as a PDF or various other formats. So if you have a Kindle, you can download it here in the Kindle format and create your own personal library on your electronic device. This is a special service that the Internet Archive provides. Now, because I'm an assistant professor and I'm perpetually in a rush, I decide not to download the whole book, but just to grab the image from the digitized book. So I click on Read Online, which opens the online viewer. And Joe, if you could just click to the first few pages. This is a very beautiful book because it has some hand-colored plates showing the coat of arms of Charles V and a portrait of Pope Clement VII. Note also that the pages have been annotated, making this a unique copy. In order to find the image of the map, I click on Thumbnail View and scroll down until I find the map. If I already know the page number, I can also scroll to the page with the scroll function at the bottom. Since we've done this, we know exactly what page it's on. Okay. So this is the first map ever published in Europe showing the Gulf Coast of Mexico and the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, represented as an idealized city in the center of a lake. I say idealized in part because at this point, Tenochtitlan would have already been destroyed. Although this map is a German woodcut, it was likely based on 2 indigenous maps that were sent to Europe from Mexico. If we zoom in on the center, we see represented in the sacred square, now the Zócalo of Mexico City, the twin pyramids of the Templo Mayor. This was the principal Aztec temple, with the sun coming up between them. Can you see that little face? Yeah. In the upper part of the map of the city, we see a banner with a double-headed eagle, a symbol of the Habsburg emperor, indicating by this time this is a conquered city and one belonging to the Spanish Empire. If to download the image, I simply right-click it and hit Save Image As. Okay. If additionally I want to perform a full text search, say for the word Panuco, the name of the river pictured on the left side, and one of the rivers through which the Spaniards entered Mexico from the Gulf Coast, I enter Panuco in the search box, and the orange pins appearing at the bottom will indicate on which pages this word appears. I can click on a pin, and it takes me to the page in question. Note also that Panuco is highlighted, so that makes the search very simple for me. These technological advances speed up research tremendously, as you can imagine, since before one would have to read each single page and to find particular keywords. So this concludes the demo, and now, Joe, if we could please return to the PowerPoint. I have one concluding slide. So I'm on my own. No. And as has mentioned before quite a number of times, at this point, the Getty Research Portal is only really a tool. I say it's not really only, but at this point, it's a tool, and it will only really realize its full potential with more content and more contributions. And so we seek to include more contributions from institutions around the world, and especially increase our non-Western material. This is sort of my agenda that I can push here. And also enableize personalization, so my portal with additional Web 2.0 functionalities. And now I invite the GRI portal team to the table so we can take a few questions. And I think we're good on time, so we have plenty of time to answer all your questions about this tool.
I should mention, too, there was a functionality when Joe and I were demoing some of the functions within the portal at the results display. I forgot to do it, Joe. It has a citation export function, too. So if you want to export the bibliographic citation, do you want to say a couple things about that, Joe?
Sure.
Yeah.
Find the right place to sit.
Yeah.
We're exporting in RIS format, which is a standard citation export format that's read by Zotero and Mendeley and Node and RefWorks and all of the kind of major browser-based or things you're going to find in university campuses. So RIS is kind of a standard format that will deliver to a file, and it'll be ingested into any of your sort of standard reference-based tools, so that you can sort of capture metadata and keep it in your citation manager.
So we would love to hear some questions or comments. There are people with microphones here.
Nancy.
Oh, yeah.
Nancy.
Why don't we get this gentleman over here and then Nancy next?
Will this be made available in other languages, or is it in English only for the time being?
Great question. Actually, it's multilingual from the get-go. All of the underlying records are in the language of the institute, of the contributing institution. So, for example, all the Ian Shaw records, cataloging records are in French. The records from the University of Malaga are in Spanish. The records from the University of Heidelberg are in German, and so forth. So one of the things Thomas alluded to are vocabulary tools that we've been developing at the Getty for more than 20 years. So another thing that we hope to do in future phases is use some of these multilingual vocabulary databases that we have to increase the multilingual access, because the user pretty much has to be searching in the language of the underlying catalog record or know the title in order to retrieve that item. The user interface is in English.
Yeah, I think from a UI perspective, we've already started to. Laney handed me the document this morning. It's our spec for Portal Phase 1.5. We've already started working on sort of user interface redesign and things like that we want to make it a bit more modular, and those are the sorts of things where if we can sort of modularize the text that lays on top of the UI, you could have a Spanish one and a German one, and it would be nice if we could have it be in the languages of everybody who contributes, but I'll have to ask Thomas for some more people.
Oh, wait, Jim Cuno has a question here in the front. Could we get a mic down here? Oh, okay. And then we'll do Nancy. I'm sorry, Nancy.
So collectively, from the beginning, you've established some standards for image and text quality reproduction, so that if I go from one library to the next, I'll have the same standard quality.
Kathleen, you want to, or David? David, you want to take that? Yeah.
We don't have any published standards. However, we whenever our people apply to give us metadata for the portal, that is one thing we will look at to make sure that they have attained the quality which we think is minimal to make it a good resource. So it's.
If I were to look at the images in the book, equal quality from one library to the next, the text kind of reads, they would read as easily from one library to the next.
They will not necessarily, because we don't. There is not necessarily an international standard against which everybody is scanning. So we are taking the best we can.
Right.
Does anyone want to?
Yeah, I mean, we
elaborate?
We actually can't impose on other institutions what the standard for digitization would be. We want it to be as high quality as possible, as David was saying. But that's another reason for including multiple copies, multiple digital copies, even of the same work, because also the different institutions in their own viewer or user interface can make the books available in different ways. So I might like the way Heidelberg presents it better than I like the way the GRI presents a particular book. But as David was saying, we try to get high quality, but we can't impose on the other institutions what standard of image capture, right? Nancy Perloff.
Yeah, I just had a question about Internet Archive. So what determines whether a book is available through Internet Archive? Or are all the books available? I didn't understand that distinction. Because that allows you to download in a whole variety of ways, and so I'm curious as to that.
It's actually only a copyright We cannot put anything in the Internet Archive which is covered by copyright. That's the first limitation. They are also, I think they also try to limited their holdings to printed texts, although I might not be exactly right on that, because I hear that they are also thinking of I think they are interested in opening up more into manuscript text as well, but I'm not sure about that. Does anyone else have more knowledge about that?
No, but I...
Their default is trying to be printed books.
Yeah.
Printed books, okay.
But they made exceptions as for us as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, it's an institutional decision and an agreement between that institution and the Internet Archive if the materials will go there, will be up on the Internet Archive.
But I think, Nancy, you were asking about which books does the GRI choose to send to the Internet Archive?
It looked like the Russian books were not part of the Internet Archive, but then Kim's example was.
They actually
Yeah.
are.
Joe?
Yeah, the Russian books actually are at both Internet Archive and the predominant link that we had in the portal link was to the sort of high-res copies that we've got locally, but the other there's additional link in those books and it goes to IA.
It was confusing the way I did the demo. I should have explained that, because actually in the demo, as Joe was saying, sort of the dominant link in the record is to the copy in our own digital library tool, but it also is in the Internet Archive. Again, we try to make digital copies of our materials available in as many online venues as possible, hoping that people will be able to find them. I think Tim Whalen had a question.
Is the Internet Archive an external proprietary third-party system that we license, or what? I'm not quite sure I understand what it is relative to the portal and relative to the other organizations that are participating in the portal.
Joe, do you want to take that?
I mean, the Internet Archive is the sort of brainchild of Brewster Kahle, so it's been around for a while. He started the Wayback Machine, the whole sort of archiving of the whole web, and he started the Internet Archive as kind of a digital repository, I'd say 6 or 7 years ago or something like that. And when we had a targeted scanning project with the Sloan Foundation and we built up a corpus starting in like 2008 or something like that. And you know, the kind of bang for the buck, as you would say, as when we submit books to Internet Archive, we get all those formats created by them, you know, for free. They do all that work, they do all that labor, they do the OCR. So it's kind of a nice symbiotic relationship, and we don't really have to do much more. So whether it's scanned on an Internet Archive scanner or it's scanned on one of our scanners in-house, we're doing the same workflow and sending the book off to Internet Archive if it's a published book and if it's a public domain published book.
But I think what Tim, maybe what you were asking too, is like what particular relationship is there between the portal project and the Internet Archive?
There's nothing.
It's just none particularly.
None, yeah.
It's just another online venue that we can link to. Some of the contributors, I believe Avery, for example, they have already been contributing. Am I right about that, Carol Ann? Carol Ann. They have already been contributing their books to the Hathi Trust, their digitized book to the Hathi Trust. So in some cases, you might find an Avery record in the portal, and it will link to the Hathi Trust. Yeah, and to Internet Archive. You're pushing them out to as many online venues as possible.
Yeah, we'll also we have a methodology where Hathi Trust is actually harvesting our books from the Internet Archive, so we'll end up with Hathi copies and Internet Archive copies as well. And we're using Hathi Trust as a preservation solution for book digitization as well, because that's really what it was established for.
I'm also sensing a different sort of a question that's lingering here. What is the difference between the portal and the Internet Archive? And the big difference is that the portal is focused on art historical literature, whereas at the Internet Archive you can find digitized books for other disciplines. And so in the future, with more and more and more contributions, it will be, you will have to put more effort to search the Internet Archive to find your art historical books, whereas the portal, you can go in, and since it's specifically art historical, it will be much easier to retrieve the books that you're looking for.
Good point.
And
we have time for, let's do 2 more quick questions, and throughout the day, we are going to have more opportunities to discuss.
And that goes precisely to my question. Thomas mentioned in his introductory remarks the issue of what's art historical and what's relevant to art historians, and who's making that decisions. For example, I've been doing a lot of work on Heidelberg for my Pompeii project, and I went on the portal just now, and I think it's great the way we go directly there, and I congratulate you all looking for a specific book. Heidelberg has 3 volumes of a series published in the early 19th century. Through the portal, I only find 1, and I can't get to the other 2. That might be a glitch that can be corrected, obviously, but is somebody selecting which books at Heidelberg are in the portal and which books in Heidelberg aren't entering the portal because they're not deemed art historical enough?
No. Joe, do you want to say something?
No, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when we're working with Heidelberg, they say, these are what we want you to harvest, and they provide me with specs to go out and get X collections. So it's, we're not vetting content from them as it comes in. They're vetting content before you. Yeah, they're vetting, right. Each institution is deciding.
But we should say, we really did build this portal very fast, and I'm sure we don't have all of Heidelberg's digital content yet, I would assume.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we do either, but I would say that indeed that's true. We did accept what people gave us, and no.
You're not really an umbrella to their holdings, you're an umbrella to selections selected by them.
Well, it should be, I think it should be what people have digitized mainly. I think you're talking about a specific Heidelberg collection, and if Claudia is here, isn't there a specific collection that maybe wasn't quite, but we can talk about that specific instance later. I just wanted to make one point about the scope of the portal, and that is that right now it is different than what we envision it to be. Right now, just for demonstration and to open it, we took what we could because not everyone has digitized so much right now either. As we go forward, we hope to do a couple of things. One is to encourage digitization, and the other is to really identify and describe our scope. We have an advisory group, or we're starting an advisory group to talk about this and to really define that scope. And indeed, we know that it can grow, and I think that's one of our major concerns.
That's a good point, Kathleen. And there's a myth that everything already exists in digital form. Most libraries have not digitized most of their stuff. And to continue with the Heidelberg example, one reason why we were so keen to have them become an initial partner was they had digitized a significant amount of their art historical holdings.
Ken, the easiest answer to your problem is send us an email that you would like to have the other 2 volumes, and you'll get them very soon.
That is very true. Right.
And we are going to incorporate feedback. Yeah.
I have a long list of books I want you to digitize.
Okay.
Send them.
But these books are digitalized on the Heidelberg website. You can access them through Heidelberg.
Right.
Now, knowing the portal's there, that will be my first stop. But I was surprised to find I couldn't get them through. So there seems to be this filter issue, and that's what I'm trying to but obviously,
Yeah. Claudia, do you want to say? We have Claudia Schmidt from the University of Heidelberg here. Could you give her the mic, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can solve this problem already because I talked with Joe about this problem. We show our records different in Germany. If we have a title with several volumes, we show them all in one. So it might be that it is on the portal already, but maybe you see only one But actually, if you click on it, there might be several volumes beneath it. So
Yeah.
I think
So
this could be.
why don't you get together with Claudia during the coffee and find out? This is one of the issues, though, and again, this was something that Joe and Lainey and all of us with mapping the metadata and so forth. For multi-volume works, how do you handle that? And where do you put the links in the record, and what do you link to? So there are a lot of challenges associated with it, but we can look specifically at those. Maria?
Yeah, just one
Claudia?
short thing. I think we gave really everything we have in art history to you. We are completely open, so everything which is related to art history should be in the portal already. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now, actually, Catherine Taft is giving me the evil eye, and we will have more time for more discussion, also during the coffee breaks and so forth, but we want to move on to our panel of scholars now.
Sure.